So I definitely would just say transitions for leaders are important. Go slowly, go very slowly through that, but also go slowly so that you don't put too much financial pressure on a new thing before it's ready to support you, because that can really put people into paralysis.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and the wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Tell me how you learn this, how you realize. I get it as if you were doing uh, facilitating your fellow kids, like how to get a better community. So how you build this business and and become a great facilitator, which is a very unique skill, very rare.
Mhm.
Not many people can do this because if you're really doing it with intention and you're really doing it for the soul, just not put it to that. One thing is community leader. You can have community leader. You can be a leader of organization. You have enough people in that organization that can engage to pull a group of people together who are facing one an outcome. You want to take action when things like this. It's a highly skilled set that for me took me years to develop. So
Mhm.
how you end up going this? Tell us the story, basically.
Yeah. Well, so, okay, I had worked for decades in sales leadership and had grown a really successful sales team that was across the country, um, sort of like at the top of the mountain of this world I was living in. When I started to have women approach me and talk to me that I just knew personally, they were professional women or business owners or whomever, and they were telling me they felt alone or they were struggling with this or they didn't have anyone to talk to. And they were all coming to me, but they didn't know each other. And I I didn't wasn't trying to start a business. Again, I was just responding to a need, but I thought if I could get these women together, they could see that they weren't alone and they could learn from each other, but they also could share resources or share recommendations for things that they used or liked or whatever. There was a really great conversation at our last event about this really great laundry detergent. I mean, just silly things sometimes, but it's fun, you know? And so I was speaking at an event in Salt Lake City. A coach that I had worked with years before, but had stayed in touch with lives out there. So I said, "Hey, I'm coming out. I'd love to see you." We had dinner, and I said, "I keep having this feeling that I need to bring these women together." And he said, "Well, Monday we're starting a training for people to use the assessment tool that he uses. And it's a pretty extensive training, but maybe, I really think you should take action on this idea and you could go through this training." And it was so crazy. I was so not thinking about doing that. I wasn't trying to become a coach. It was so far. I call it the accidental business, but I knew what I could do with these women. Like that, I knew. And I thought, I'll just do this on the side and kind of scratch an itch and see what happens. And it grew really, really fast. So the business took off from
Very
there.
impressive.
Yeah, but that was 9 years ago.
Oh,
And this
nine
has been
years
my,
ago.
yeah, this has been my full-time work for like the last 7 or 8 years. I'd say seven and a
Wow.
half years.
Oh,
So
wow. That's
yeah,
what a great story.
it's great.
Most of the business is done by accident. We just, like my first business was 20 years ago. I think I was working in a pub in London. That was maybe 25, 21, 67% of my purchase. So we had to find a way to pay rent. So I rent the house and then I rent the house of my parents. Okay, something in the living room. But, paying rent by head. 6 hours, and then we continue to when more house to manage more family. So, so and in this podcast, on the maintenance, and then you hear the stories sometimes because it happens. It's an accident. It was an accident, trying to solve a problem for myself, and then I got to help other people, and then people pay, and then I said, well, I'm gonna do it more, and then people keep paying, everything. And actually, you become an entrepreneur. So my question to you, next one is about this transition. Maybe a lot of people are listening to this podcast that incorporate, they're looking at you, they say, wow, it's amazing. She can fill her own calendar. She's her own boss with those retreats, which is a lot of fun. You don't need to deal with bullying. You need to deal with do this job. You need to deal with one of the things that happen in your environment. They are on the edge. They are on the edge, and they never take the decision. Okay. So can you tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly of the transition between corporate to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I will tell you if you want to know every unhealthy subconscious habit of thinking that you have in your brain, go ahead and go from corporate to being an entrepreneur because you will discover things about yourself in that process that you would never have to discover if you just stay on the current path that you're on. It brings things to the surface. I describe it like a beach ball that's been held underwater. When you make that transition, these habits of thinking just come rushing to the surface. Um, and it reveals a lot. It gives you a lot of opportunities to grow. What I will tell you is that I am not a person who says unequivocally that one is like for sure better than the other. For some people who, I think about a single parent, maybe with a child with significant health needs. You might not have the luxury. You may need the healthcare benefits that are provided by a traditional workplace. I don't think it's wise unless you have a very high risk tolerance to just make the jump cold turkey. I think it's much smarter to start something on the side that's small. Even for me, it looks like, oh, I just made this big jump. Well, I had a lot of income that I was living on that allowed me to grow this business without pressure on it, that allowed me to make wise, long-term strategic decisions that have really served the business. But if I didn't have a source of income and I was depending on it, the pressure of that can be too much. So I'm one that if you don't have a high risk tolerance, small baby steps are better than none at all. I also think what you were saying is so wise, like just respond to the need that's in front of you. I don't think you have to have the big strategic plan. I don't think you have to know where it's going. I mean, similarly, we have a rental business and we just bought one house and we fixed it up and then like we bought another one, and it grew. But like we didn't set out to have a rental business. We just it was an opportunity that showed up. So sometimes it's like we're looking out there for the big, perfect thing. And there's this small thing right in front of you that you're just not taking action on. And I always say to people, like, just take action on the very small thing. Now, there is a tipping point because there's also like an energy thing where if you've worked all day in a really demanding job, it's really difficult to come home and have the energy to like create business. That's very challenging. So you have to monitor that as you're going, like what your capacity is. But I definitely will say that's where I do think having some guidance. When I was making that transition, I was working with a coach. I would not have made it through, both because my role was so demanding and public over here. And then I knew people were going to have strong reactions to my departure. It was really challenging. There was a whole identity piece that was wrapped up in that I needed to work through before I could
Well,
move over.
if you're the head of sales and you leave and I own the company, of course I'm gonna have a
It's a
big
not great
reaction. It's
response
a
from
big
everyone.
problem.
And then the people that I was leading that I loved and cared for a lot, right? Like I'm leaving. So there was just a lot that was difficult around that. So I definitely would just say transitions for leaders are important. Go slowly, go very slowly through that, but also go slowly so that you don't put too much financial pressure on a new thing before it's ready to support you, because that can really put people into paralysis.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.